Hey guys, Jessica Vega here. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you're having an awesome morning and happy Saturday. This isn't Saturday morning that you're watching it. I hope whatever day you're watching this, you're having an incredible day. But if not, let's press restart right now. I thought we could do some Devos together today. Now I've been studying the writings of Isaiah, and Isaiah's a really cool guy in the Bible to me because he's kind of like a record holder. He holds the record for writing the longest book in the Bible by himself. So it's not that the book of Isaiah is the longest book, but it is the longest book written by a single author. Like he wrote it by himself. So Psalms and Proverbs and other books may be longer, but they were written by multiple authors. And if you haven't read Isaiah 53, I strongly encourage you. That's kind of the starting point for me this morning. I was reading about the example Jesus sets for us in humility. Now I wanted a little bit of a background on what or who influenced Isaiah's writing. So I looked back into 2 Chronicles. I found who it was that was ruling at the time when Isaiah was called by God into ministry. The first king who was reigning during that time was King Uzziah. Now King Uzziah would have been Isaiah's hero as a little boy. If little boy Isaiah was playing with his friends, they would have kind of fought over who got to play the role of King Uzziah, because he was such a great king. And as I read about King Uzziah, I was like floored, going, wow, this man, he was wise and he was creative. And I love what the Bible says about him. In 2 Chronicles 26, it says, during that time, he sought the Lord and God gave him success. The Bible says that he cared about what was right in the Lord's eyes and that he did those things. He also had a mentor, Zechariah, who taught him the ways of the Lord. And he became king at a young age, at the age of 16, and he ruled for like 52 years. That's huge. Now, King Uzziah had a huge task. He was ruling over the people of God. He was the ruler of Judah. And I think what was so amazing about him is not only was he a good decision maker, not only was he wise, not only was he good at winning wars and gaining territory for the people of God, but he also was inventive and creative, which is so hard to be a good businessman but also be super creative. And he was inventive in that he created weapons and catapults and things that really helped him to advance. And then all of a sudden, about midway through the chapter, the tone changes and it says God had made him successful, right? And then you get to verse 15 says, so his fame spread even to distant places, for he was marvelously helped until he became strong. You might think, wasn't he strong all along? But see, the thing was that the Lord had been his strength, and then he started to rely on his own strength. And when he does that, he gets arrogant. And so really, when they say he became strong, he became headstrong. At that point in his story, he really took a turn for the worse. He has this exchange with the priests where he goes into the temple to burn incense to God, which was an honor only given to the priests during that time. They are brave and they confront him, and as they're confronting him, he gets defensive and he gets entitled and he gets angry with them. And instead of gracefully accepting the rebuke, he fights back, and during that, his forehead breaks out in disease. And when the priests see that he's diseased, he realizes that he's been afflicted by God and that he is no longer clean, and for the rest of his life, it's so sad. He's literally quarantined and almost exiled until his death. And in the end of that chapter, what it says about him when he passes is not that he was this fearless leader who did 52 years worth of amazing things for God's people, but all that's left to hear about him is that he died diseased with leprosy. I mean, what a sad ending to such a great story of a man who fell to his own demise, his own selfishness. He became the focus of his own world. Going back to Isaiah 53, such a cool read. It's talking about the servant of the Lord, meaning Jesus, and it's talking about some of the things that he encountered. And it got me to thinking that Jesus really did give the perfect example of what it is to be humble. We like to think of humble in a false sense of humility sometimes, of degrading ourselves to not be arrogant, but that's really not what humility was. He shows us what true humility is here. I've been thinking a lot about the struggle for us in our humanity sometimes to become the focal point of our own world, because it is our nature to be selfish. A long time ago, scientists used to believe that everything revolved around the earth, and still as we walk through our daily lives, we struggle with that. And I think at the root of so much of our sin and so much of our hatred towards others and our inability to truly love others lies in our entitlement issues. We, at the core of who we are, have so many entitlement issues. We think that justice should be ours, and we think that fairness should be given. That is not what Jesus was about. The hard place he must have lived in, to be all-knowing and all-powerful, to be blameless and to be royal, having never given anyone any reason to question him. He was doubted constantly. He never sinned, yet he got punished for the sins of everyone. Instead of being commended and honored for the miracles he did, for the wisdom, the teachings, the healings, instead he was trash-talked and he was beaten. He was literally disrespected in every way, and I can't imagine what that must have been like for him. But yet, never did any of those things ever change his attitude, his work ethic, or the way that he treated people. He was so self-secure. He knew his worth and who he was so much, in fact, that there was no situation, no words that could be spoken to him that could change who he knew he was in his Father and what his purpose was here on this earth. His ability to love and to be noble and do what was right far superseded his pride. And most of all, I love that Jesus never demanded anything from anyone because of who he was. We in our humanity, we think, I'm good and I do great things and I've worked so hard and I deserve this. If there was ever an example of someone who deserved all honor and all the good things, it was Jesus. And yet he didn't. And I hope that today you can be encouraged in knowing Jesus and what he did on the cross for me is enough. That is the prize. That is the reward. I'm not entitled to things because of the good in me, because the good in me is him. Hope you are reminded of that today. And until I see you next week, I hope you have the best days yet. Bye.